All right, after messing up my development setup on my laptop, so normally I did Katello and Foreman development directly on my laptop. I ran the debugger there, all the services there, but I managed to mess that up pretty severely. So I've switched over to a style that other Katello, I think Foreman developers use, and that is basically they launch the server in a VM. And so I have a slightly different style, and I wanted to reproduce that with VMs. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to give you a little demo on how I do it. It's only a day old. I think it should work. All right, so let me see here. What we got? Okay. All right, so this is my example of Foreman and Katello simple code development with RubyMine by myself again at Thomas McKay. Okay, so the goal is to set up a developer environment without knowing how Katello is wired. Now, why is that a goal? Because it's a problem. So Foreman is super easy. Katello is scary. Everyone knows this, and even if you don't know it, if you have never tried it, you certainly believe it. So Foreman itself is a fairly straightforward Ruby on Rails app with no backend services. It does have some compute resources and other stuff that interacts with Puppet, but Katello leverages many open source projects all running as backend services. So Pulp for content management, Elasticsearch for searching, Candlepin for subscriptions and entitlement. And so it's very scary to a lot of people, including not only Katello developers, but certainly Foreman developers and certainly the developer community at large. All right, so go through a couple steps. Super easy setup of Katello. I mean, it could not be easier. All right, I don't need to know how to install it. I don't need to know how to configure it. I can just launch a VM with fully running Katello inside of Foreman up and running. Okay, and not only that, but this setup will git clone both the Foreman and Katello repositories. So the full developer setup. All right, I am going to share. Let me see. How about we share this guy? All right, so what I've done is I've run the, there's a Katello deploy repository, which I'll show you on GitHub. It basically lets you run a simple command to create a VM, CentOS 6 in my case, installs Katello, all the repositories required, runs a Katello installer, gets everything up and running. So at this point, I am on the VM, okay, and I'm in the Foreman git checkout, and I'm going to run this command, which launches a remote debugging process. Now, if I go over to, back here, okay, so the VM I showed was created entirely by this vagrant up CentOS 6 -devel. -devel does the extra step of doing the git clone of both Foreman and Katello. Okay, and what I saw, so I installed an extra gem, Ruby Debug IDE, and then I ran it with a command. And this is, I run the command, this is the output. So it's basically waiting for another service to connect up to it. The other service is RubyMine. So let's go over and let me show you RubyMine. There we go. Okay, so this is RubyMine. I shrunk the window down a little bit so you can get some scope of size. So let me go here and maybe that does not show. Hold on one sec. It's a pop-up. It's not going to show, I guess. All right, well, let me cancel this. So this button up here lets me edit configuration. So it gives me basically choices of how to run the tool. And so what I've chosen is the remote Ruby debugging, and I pointed it to the VM IP address, and I've given it some port information, which you can see in the command line. Actually, that command, the Ruby, the rdebug-IDE, that command itself is actually written out for you in RubyMine, so you don't have to guess. It just tells you what to cut and paste over into your VM console window and it waits. So the debugger is running. Okay, I'm connected. And what I've done is okay, so over here, this is the Ruby on Rails process running over on my VM. And I have introduced a bug. Okay, I just put in basically call to undefined variable. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the debugger now and show you what we can do. Okay, so here you can see the same error. Now this is a terminal window that I'm running within RubyMine, and I'm just tailing -F the development log. Now in non-remote debugging, this console window would actually have the log output constantly with basically linked to source code and something like that. I'm not sure how to set that up or if that's even possible. But you can see from RubyMine itself, I can monitor what's going on. Okay, so it's telling me that it's in this file. You know, there's the error message. This is the stack. All right, so it's in settings controller. And so I will open up the settings controller, and you can see my change there. Okay, so I'm going to put in a breakpoint. I'm going to go back to page and reload it. Okay, so now I've hit the breakpoint. Okay, so it shows me the stack. This is where I am. Now, the stack frame is not available. Again, local RubyMine versus the remote debugging is slightly different. So if you're just debugging purely Foreman, all these stack frames will be, it'll point into your Ruby gems, and you'll be able to step anywhere in the code you want. Okay, but you can see I can jump through the code that we know about right here. Okay, so I can set watch points. Watches on variables. All right, so every breakpoint, these variables will just show up in the list with their current values. You can see the local variables here, global variables if I want to look at them. Here's params. Okay, I do have a interactive console. I don't know if this will show up or not, but it's just it's basically like IRB. It's, you know, it's the Ruby prompt, so I can run any commands I want. If I want to run pry or you know, pluck or anything I want to do there, I can do that. Okay. So I can continue. I can step into, I can step out of, I can do all sorts of stuff. Now, when I fix the code, I can just change the code right here, delete this line, or remove the breakpoint, save it, back over to the browser. And let me share the browser again. Okay. So I've hit reload. At this point, the source changes are being mirrored over onto the server, and voila, I fixed the bug. So I didn't need to restart anything myself. I can make code changes to the live server. I can put breakpoints. I can change variables at those breakpoints if I need to change values. You know, whatever I want to do. Completely interactive. All right. Oh, I guess I could just set there. Hold on. Back to my little slide deck. So again, some slight differences in remote debugging, but nothing too bad in my opinion. I can set the breakpoints, variable inspection. I can traverse the stack. I can get to a console. I can set watch points on variables. I can set conditional breakpoints. I can also use RubyMine as a full editor. Now, I tend not to do that. I tend to edit my code outside of RubyMine, but it has VI bindings and Emacs bindings and other bindings if you want to do that. Super easy if you're using, I don't know if people have used C tags or E tags, but that's built into RubyMine, so you can jump to the definition of a function. You can jump down into the calls, so you can see who's calling it. You can do global searches, global search and replace, do code formatting. There's a lot of things to do. I don't take advantage of those things. I know some people just use RubyMine for editing and not debugging. I think you're missing out on the power of it. All right, so here as a bonus step, now look, there was 3 steps to get fully functioning RubyMine with debugger. For a bonus though, with this SSHFS, I can mount my Git checkouts on my laptop. I can mount those directories directly into the VM. So I don't have to, so a code change, I don't need to rsync or copy files. I literally just edit them on the laptop. They're reflected live in the running server on the VM. No changes necessary. And I think, let me just show you. So this is Katello deploy. The GitHub, Katello deploy. Super easy instructions. You can run, you know, normal installs, CentOS 6, CentOS 7. I am using the development deployment, and that just does the extra step of Git checkout, okay, of the GitHub repos. And I think that's it. So links to Katello deploy, and again, RubyMine is from JetBrains. You can use it for free on open source projects. If you're a Red Hat employee, we do pay for the license, even though we're open source. So just talk to your manager and they'll get you a key and you're off and running. I think that's it. Good luck. Ping me on IRC if you have any questions or any feedback.